Did you get it?
So we just come up with the words. Let me see.
I just had it. Oh, let me go back to mine.
Come on, don't I just go to Facebook and just go to my Fli-City Blackout?
Mm-hmm.
Over in the left right-hand corner?
Yeah, I'm about to.
Hmm?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Here, look at this.
The good one is working. That one is not.
Okay, let me stop it here. Share it. Send it to you. Oh God, I hate this thing.
I got it. I got it.
Good to go.
I got mine.
So,
Okay, see if you get it.
let me see how many people.
You didn't get it?
It's not. It's just
Okay,
a-
let me find it, then I'll give it to you.
Okay.
This is crazy.
Hello, Flintstones. We're here again, as always, that we are making sure that we are engaging in positive dialogue in our community. Again, I'm Brother Hubert Naeem Roberts, Chairman of Black Lives Matter. We have an awesome program today that we are working to highlight a tremendous young man in our community, Mr. Eric Mays. And again, he is in the spirit of Senator Pembroke. If any of you guys remember the senator doing Reconstruction in New Orleans, along with Marcus Garvey, it's so important that we all take a piece of Mr. Mays and engage in positive liberation for our community. One thing about Mr. Mays that was tremendous, he worked for democracy with a big D. It didn't matter what type of affiliation that you had, meaning R's or D's, he was committed to the liberation of all people. So you can't put Mr. Mays in a box. I remember many times that he would work with people in different wards to make sure that we get things done collectively in our community. So today, we're going to take this time to highlight some amazing things that Brother Mays engaged in. And the whole purpose of this is to direct us into doing the work that we need to do. Joe Madison say, what are we going to do about it?
That's right.
Now we can mourn and go through all these things about Brother Mays, but what are we going to do collectively in our city? It's time out for us to be beefing with one another, being mad at one another. We must get some things done. We have a beautiful mother here today. She also had a tremendous bracelet. Man, listen here. This bracelet that she has on, Eric May's point of order. She's going to show it to us. We're keeping it under wraps for a minute, but she's going to break it out to our communities, and they will be available in a month. So we want to make sure that you guys pay attention and learn something. Every time here at Fli-City Blackout, We are engaged in teaching, learning, and making sure that we engage in our community to uplift our community. Remember, all of us gonna die, but we can choose to live. My sister, introduce yourself.
Well, thank you for that wonderful opening. My name is Claire McClinton, and I want to thank Fli-City Blackout and Black Lives Matter for your continued support to open up your platform for us to talk about some of the issues going on in our city. And of course, the latest thing was the untimely passing of Eric B. Mays, first Ward Councilman. When we learned that Councilman Mays had died, a little of all of us died with him.
Yes, ma'am.
A little of us all died with him because he had such a tremendous impact on our community. And he represented everything that we refer to as Flintstones.
Yes, ma'am.
Outspoken, don't back down, social justice minded, a big heart, and all the rest of those things that we know is a Flintstone feature. So we really are moved. We're still in the healing process, and we wanted to take the time out today because Councilman Mays and his family for sharing Councilman Mays with us for all these years.
Yes, yes.
And in the last couple of years, Councilman Mays exploded on social media, and it was a tremendous thing for all of us because people from all over the country were paying attention to Flint, in particular, the dysfunctional council that we have. So, but it was great because all of the issues that we've been trying to lift and break through the media blackout about the water and all these other things had an opportunity to come to light because of Councilman Mays.
Yes, ma'am.
So what we want to do today, everything that can be said about Mr. Mays has been said. But we want to hear from the councilman today. We want to hear it from him, some of the issues that he championed. He was at the beginning of the water crisis.
That's right.
He worked with us on the legal part. I mean, as activists, and some of us knowing from being working in the vineyard, as Eric would say sometimes.
Yeah.
Those of us that work in the vineyards, this is how we know him.
Mm-hmm.
His compassion, his social justice spirit. This is how our relationship with some of us was with Mr. Mays.
Right.
But I think that we picked out, and there's so much material out there, we couldn't pick everything. But I think that his position on the water and later on the ARPA money and his education to make sure that residents of all of us got restoration, full restoration.
Yes, ma'am.
For what happened. And the ARPA money, he fought, and we know that he was removed from council because of his outspoken and how that money was used.
That's right.
But we're gonna go back to a program that was back in, I believe, 2016, an interview on a program called Democracy Now, where they interviewed Mr. Mays, because many of us may not have had the opportunity to learn and hear. We know he was a fighter, but he was also a truth teller and an educator in the process. So we're gonna focus on that today. We can grieve over Councilman Mays, but who gonna pick up the legacy and carry it forward?
Yes, ma'am.
So hopefully some of these clippings will give us a direction and a template to pick up and carry on. So, Dewan, if you don't mind.
PA4 was defeated in a 2-to-1 statewide referendum. We went to City Hall to find out. Law, Public Act 436, which was pushed through after a similar law, PA4, was defeated in a 2-to-1 statewide referendum. We went to City Hall to find out.
Eric May, first Ward City Councilman for the city of Flint. I represent the first ward, which is the farthest north end of the city of Flint, about 11,000 residents. I would say it's about 96% or so black, and we've got all the issues: high crime, abandoned houses.
So explain how the emergency manager worked and how the decision was made to switch to the Flint River.
If you look at Public Act 436 and even Public Act 4, whenever a city was in so-called quote-unquote or quote emergency financial distress or financial trouble, unquote, whoever defined that and however the city got there with a general fund budget deficit, the governor would appoint a review team, and the review team might recommend an emergency manager come in. In my opinion, some of that was created because the governor took revenue sharing away from cities and helped create financial distress, about $55 million at some point from the city of Flint.
Wait, you're saying they take the money from Flint and they send it elsewhere in Michigan?
In this case, our money was taken from Flint, Detroit, and other municipalities, and the governor then boasted in some cases a surplus for the state. And so that's why we say in some cases the governor helped create the deficit and then would send in an emergency manager.
So explain what happened. How was the decision made?
In about April of 2014, I got a notification that it was some activity going on over at the water plant. And when I got there, the emergency manager was there, down there early. The mayor was there. Council people was there. I was one of them. I seen other officials there. The police chief was there. And when I caught on to what was going on, it was a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then the button was pushed and one light went on red and yet green. And, it's recorded and documented. And so then after that, there was a gathering in the plant because this button is pushed outside in the back somewhere. And then we walked from there, and then they did a toast. And, to show we're drinking now river water. And because of the stigma of the river, I wouldn't really, I held it up, but I didn't feel comfortable guzzling it down with them. And they was, go ahead and drink. And I was like, so, that's kind of what went down. So I was leery from the beginning, but I had no idea. I knew nothing about some of the bacteria. I knew nothing about TTHMs, trihalomethanes. I knew nothing about lead, and I knew nothing about possible legionnaires.
So you introduced a bill in March of 2015 to say return to Detroit's water. What happened to it?
I put a motion on the floor, and that motion passed 7 or 8 to 1 to return to the Detroit water. And I think then President Josh Freeman was the only no vote. And so the emergency manager, I think it was then emergency manager Ambrose, I think he talked publicly like that was not something that was smart or shouldn't have been done. He used some distinct words.
He used the word, it's incomprehensible that your city council voted 7 to 1 to go back to Detroit's water. I have the quote of the emergency manager, Jerry Ambrose, who said, Flint water today is safe by all U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and Michigan Department of Environmental Quality standards, and the city is working daily to improve its quality. It's incomprehensible to me that 7 members of the Flint City Council would want to send more than $12 million a year to the system serving Southeast Michigan, even if Flint ratepayers could afford it. Lake Huron water from Detroit is no safer than the water from Flint.
Well, he was wrong. In my opinion, he was wrong. And it was not meeting all the EPA standards. We found out Kurt Guyette with the ACLU did some good research, and, you know, he discovered to me that the city of Flint was submitting samples of water where they had been pre-flushing, which you shouldn't pre-flush when you're testing for certain things. Water should set at least for 6 hours and then you test. We found out they were testing maybe certain places that didn't have lead pipes. And so there was some what we call skewed testing samples.
That was Flint City Councilman Eric Mays. He sponsored the legislation to switch Flint back to Detroit water half a year before the governor finally allowed the city to switch back.
Yes, that's just one example of Mr. Mays' tremendous foresight when you think about how the powers that be manipulate the situation, you know?
Yes.
And like you said about, you know, his keen understanding of the law.
Yes.
And then his honesty about what he did know.
Yes.
And then finding out.
Yes.
See, a lot of times we don't want to be honest with what we don't know.
That's right.
And that's why we're in the condition that we're in Flintstone right now. Many of our elected leaders, even before Mr. Mays, have been engaged in a great deal of fraud.
Yes.
To put it blank.
Yes, and I want to just add a little to that in saying that those of us on the ground were demanding to go back to Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
We knew the water wasn't safe. Jerry Ambrose standing up there talking about it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't safe then, it's not safe now.
Right.
However, we on the ground were howling and screaming for clean water and going back to Detroit. But it was our elected leadership who took what he understood, and he was working with us too.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought it to council.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's what elected leadership looked like.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what elected leadership looked like, to summarize and hear the voices of the people,
Mm-hmm.
and then go down to your prospective position and carry out and implement what the people demand.
Protect the people.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did he have the courage of his conviction, he listened to the grassroots,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't mind going down there acting on it, even if he was alone. However, truth be told, the other council people, all but one,
Mm-hmm.
voted not to go back to Detroit.
Okay.
But it was 6 months later when the governor finally cried uncle and let us go back to Detroit. But so much damage had been done in the course. So I want to skip on over to August 2020 and the water settlement and Eric Mays' outspokenness about the $600 million settlement. He did a press conference,
Mm-hmm.
and they were asking, he helped organize a press conference.
Yes, ma'am.
And he spoke on the water settlement.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to hear about that right now.
The gaps in the proposed settlement, we applaud it. We say it's a great first start. We are looking at getting more money into the category for kids. We want some adults who don't seem to be covered. We want money, and we want to cover them. We see property damage categories with certain smaller percentages. And then we understand that other defendants can settle. For example, the EPA, the engineering firms, and that money can go into those firms. Into those funds. So we're looking to understand the details of the agreement. The media have been sending them to me. They say they're posted. We understand more people can sign up. And so since we've been in this from the beginning, we help recruit lawyers. We brought lawyers in. They've done a fine job. We've hopped over some legal hurdles, but we still believe we're not going to give up our comment time talking to our attorneys and talking in the public through the media what we want this agreement to look like. And this is the first day of a 45-day or so long conversation.
Is $600 million enough?
$600 million is not enough. When you take off the attorney fees, and I don't know if it'll be 33 1/3%, but that 600 million shrinks down to maybe 300 and something million. And so we have questions. Even if another 600 million came in, would that take the attorney fees up? If it was 1.2 billion, would that take those fees up to 400 million every time the fund jumps up? So we have some questions. We have some concerns. We want attorneys to be paid, but we also want the fund to be up. So I don't care if the attorneys make 600 million themselves, but then I would want the fund to be 1.6 billion. So we're just watching the balance of what will get to the people, what group it'll get to, minus attorney fees.
What does the nation need to know about Flint families in this moment? What we've been through and where we're at today?
The nation needs to know that we're standing strong. We have lost some people. Some people have died. We've got some unknown injuries. We know that lead is regulated, and we know a little about lead, but we did not know, and we still do not know about germs and other bacteria that we experience in the water. But we want them to know that we're here prayerful. We're smiling. We still have our intelligent mind. We're in the middle of litigation. We're sane enough to negotiate and speak up to our attorneys. And we ask everybody around the nation, even though we're an example and other cities have some of the similar problems, we're asking for people to continue to pray for us. We're Flintstone strong. God bless America.
Well, there you have it. Early on, outspoken against the $600 million, which we haven't seen a nickel on this day, March 12th, 2024, and that was in 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
even when they came up with that formula was insulting.
Yes, it was.
Very insulting. Because in actuality, when Barack Obama came here, should have declared it a national disaster.
Absolutely.
That would have automatically kicked in long term, 30 years of investment to repair our community.
Absolutely. Well, we have been blindsided and backstabbed by a lot of our kind.
Yes, ma'am. Just like
but
me.
We're the wiser force.
That's right. Oh, yes, ma'am.
We're the wiser force. We don't keep on falling for the okie doke.
When you mention that, it's amazing. I was talking to someone earlier, and they was talking about Moses, and then Moses was speaking, for almost 100 years, and they wouldn't listen, and it's the same thing that we're dealing with the Governor Snyders, and when you think about the whole concept of capitalism, and what it does, and how it just destroys and eat up like a cancer. That if you don't have, or you're not at that level with them, because power only respect power.
That's right.
And so again, we got to remember this. Coming into the 23rd century, water is the number one thing that is going to be so important. And we are in the Great Lakes. So never forget that.
That's right.
Water, in association to water,
Absolutely.
and being close to water, is the number one priority.
Yes, it is. And you laid a great foundation for our upcoming 10 years next month. It'll be 10 years since the water crisis. And we know we were a victim of poisoning, but we was a victim of a corporate capitalist agenda to seize our water.
Yes, ma'am.
And our water.
That's exactly.
And we sit surrounded by the greatest
body of
fresh water in the world.
Thank you.
And if we've got to fix the damage that they did to us as they pursued this corporate agenda. But at the same time, we've got to come up with solutions to say that no private investor has a right.
Thank you.
That's one of our new demands for this
yes,
year.
Ma'am.
No private investor has a right to purchase water.
Thank you. That's right.
Water is life.
Mm-hmm.
Water is God-given.
Yes, ma'am.
Water is a precious entity.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
it shouldn't, you're right.
It's a commodity.
It's a commodity for us to live, but it shouldn't be a market commodity.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Right.
That's what we're saying.
Right. It's definitely from
so
God.
We're going to get into that.
Now, when you mention that, I want to add also to the damage. I talked to a teacher today over at Pierce School, and she's dealing with many of the children over there that's been damaged by it.
Yes, it's such a sad.
It's sad, man, what they're dealing with and how they are not properly giving the children the resources that they really need. You know, don't have qualified teachers. The space over there is unacceptable. And then there's no support for the family because you get these children that are hyper, that are dealing with a lot of mental illness, right? And these are kindergarten. These ain't 7th or 8th grade. These kindergarten displaying this behavior and it's because of the water.
Yes. And it's just a crime against humanity. And we have said that we need to call the United Nations up.
I agree.
Because it's a crime against humanity.
I agree.
What is done to us and the failure of our so-called government that's supposed to represent us to completely ignore the damage that they have done.
Yes, ma'am.
Nobody's gone to jail. Nobody's the little paltry $600 million. So it's a lot there to deal with. And again, getting back to Councilman Mays, he was there from the beginning.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounding the alarm on these issues. And he would not back down.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm just going to go a little bit side into, we talked about how he became an explosive personality nationally. It wasn't by design.
No, ma'am.
It just happened. I mean, he wasn't seeking that. It just happened.
That's how you know it's organic.
Yes, it is.
That's when it's organic, it's more authentic.
Yes, it is. Right. And we should be grateful how it's come back to help shine the light of Flint on the world. That is just such a gift that he gave to us that we can continue to raise our issue, even when Obama turned their back, Whitmore turned their back, the county commission turned their back, the city council, other than Eric. And let me say something too about Eric. It wasn't just a city council that he was outspoken. He was a street fighter. He was a community activist. And he never gave that up when he went and became on the council. So just to show the power of his influence, I'm going to show you a couple of tapes now of how his reach. You had a presidential candidate, Robert Kennedy, come here and talk with Eric. And you also had some Republicans out of New Jersey that brought Eric down there to talk with them. They said, we need somebody like you here. So let's show that to show how he influenced people all over of different political stripes and colors.
It's very good that we're highlighting this because that is really the essence of a man or a human being, man or woman, as far as being.
The Flint water crisis, Councilman Eric Mays has been a city councilman here for 10 years. Not only that, but he's a huge TikTok star because of his fame at presiding over meetings and squeezing the big polluters with his famous line, what point of
order.
Yeah, but people are everybody, as you can see, he's got an incredible style.
Sometimes
He has a beautiful voice. He would have been elected mayor, but they put him in jail that night. And he knows a lot about water, which so he and I have in common.
Well, could I say this? I had to learn a lot about water. I had to learn as much about water as Forrest Gump had to learn about shrimp.
And he's the one guy, he was the guy who discovered that there was a provision in the local law that allowed him to declare a state of emergency.
Allowed the mayor to declare a state of emergency.
So he ran for mayor so that he could do it. And he ended up supporting the mayor who won the three candidates. And as a result of his support, she agreed to do it. And we got the state of emergency here, which then made the EPA come in and the federal agencies, and they uncovered this scandal and the cover up that all of the big bankers and the polluters had been trying to cover up, had been lying about for a year, calling people interesting conspiracy theorists who said that the water was polluted. And here the water still hasn't been cleaned up.
How many years later? This was 2013, 2014, and here we are in 2023, and look what we got at the water fountains all across the city. Out of water, no water, and we're still trying to call a point of order. I think it's a good thing I'm standing here with Mr. Kennedy. We all know the Kennedys. And so I like saying President Kennedy.
That shouldn't be, that wasn't the end of that. Go ahead and say the next one to the Republican.
Okay, we also continue to show how Eric worked again with all people. I think that's something that there's always a concept about, even when you think about trees. And if you really understand trees, Eric. Again, when you understand about trees, and the most important thing is the element, and when we can think about human beings, you know what happens to trees without water. And another thing about trees, all trees on the planet are connected. So when you think about trees without water, that's the same thing that you and I or any of us. That's not
I'm standing here with somebody I want to introduce you. He's the chairman of the Republican Party in Atlantic County. I'm in Atlantic County, the city of Galloway. I'm in New Jersey.
Yep.
And I just had breakfast with a bunch of elected folks in the Republican Party, senators, congressmen, state senators, U.S. congressmen. And this is the chairman. It's my pleasure to meet you.
Well, I'm happy to be here, Mr. Mays. Listen, you're like a legend. I've seen some of your videos are going out there.
I wouldn't tell nobody.
And listen, I tell it the way it is, whether you like it or not.
Right.
One of the best thing is you say the way it is, and no matter if you're in politics or you're not, you need somebody to tell the truth. And this man tells the truth, no matter if it's on video or not on video. And I respect that. That's one of my downfalls, is I just tell you the way it is. But I appreciate you taking your morning to come out here and hang out with us in Galloway Township, Atlantic County. Atlantic City's right through the water here. Long trip you have. And I know you're making your rounds through the country, but I appreciate everything you do. Stand up for the taxpayers, stand up for the citizens of Flint. We do that. We need more of you people here in Atlantic County, believe me.
Man, look, I don't care what y'all say. If I get back to Michigan and them Democrats ain't talking this well about me, he gonna switch me to a Republican if y'all ain't
Hey, you're
careful.
damn right. You're damn right. We'll bring you in and no problem. And listen, it's not a matter of what party you belong to. You do the damn right thing for the people. I was the mayor for 8 years, and you stand up for the people, and they'll always respect you. And when you turn around and become part of the establishment, that's where the problems start. You get yourself in trouble. And Mr. Mays here, you are a people person.
Chairman Purdy, you are a people person, and I like you, and we just need it. God bless y'all, and God bless the citizens of the United States of America.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we were just giving you a couple of examples of the far-ranging impact that Councilman Eric Mays had on Republicans, Democrats, Independents, and the people as a whole. And next, I think we're going to speed up here to last year's 9-year commemoration of the water crises. And every year we gather together to help commemorate the water crisis, which is not over. And we try to fellowship and come together about what steps we need to take going forward. And we come together because people all over the country, if you meet somebody from another, you don't even have to be another state, another city, they think everything's fine.
Right.
It's over. No? So we have to come together to remind people and ourselves there's still work to be done.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would like, and every year that we did this commemoration on April 25th, when the water was switched, and every year Eric has joined us. And I remember when we had, I believe it was the 8th year, and we went over to the farmers market, which had been decimated, old farmers market.
Okay.
We went over there, and I remember Eric in that baritone voice singing "Wade in the Water." So he always joined us and lent us any support we needed. But in this last year's, the 9th year, we're going to show you, Eric had just got out of court that morning, his sentencing for the disorderly. And fortunately, the judge just gave him really a tap on the hand. And she blasted the city council, and she said, I think she sent Eric to one class, anger management class, and she told, this judge told the council, 2 of the council people were in the courtroom. She said, I wish I could send you all to a class because you're so dysfunctional. So it's almost like she was sentencing them.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that happened that morning, and Eric was able to join us. We didn't know whether he was going to be in jail, but he joined us at the 9-year commemoration, and we asked him to give a little presentation on the shortcomings and the challenges of the lawsuit.
Yes, ma'am.
Eric.
I don't know if it's morning or afternoon, but it is April 25th, 9 years later. So I'm glad to be here today, surrounded by people who we fought with.
Interesting they did that with your speech.
Remind me of a councilman. Yeah, but I'm glad to be here today, surrounded by people 9 years ago when we protested and raised the issue. And so the subject matter that I'm speaking on today is the objections and the protests we had to the specifics of the water lawsuit settlement. $600 million Me and Mayor Weaver and others thought it should be 1.6 billion or more. We believe that there shouldn't have been $1,000 cap on certain grown folks and residents. I even look at the category of distribution for children, 6 and under. Maybe a high percentage of the money will go there. Whatever age they would be now, if they were 6 then, they'd be about 15 now. But it was all categories of children that was affected. Adults, property owners, business owners. My position is that was wrong to put a cap there. Attorneys came in, they taken 200 million off the top or so. I don't mind attorneys getting their fees, but take it off of 2 billion, not 600 million. You had politicians, we in office in the middle of our fight. They agreed to settlements that shouldn't have happened. I don't care if their name is Gretchen Whitmer, Neely, council people. We worked too hard to be shortchanged on a settlement to try to put a close on it. And then on top of that, when will it pay out? Will it pay out last year? No. Did it pay out? Will it pay out this year? We don't know. Or will it pay out next year? Will there be other defendants who will make it up to the grown folks and residents who was capped off at $1,000? After attorney fees, as folks wait anxiously, a lot of people might be disappointed when that check is only $600, $700, $800. So we'll continue to object to that. We'll continue to fight for justice and equity in these civil settlements. And that's just one of the fights 9 years later. Thank you so much.
Beautiful, beautiful. And again, that level of commitment is something that has to reverberate in our community because, again, these little snippets of his engagement and his dedication to this city has to be mindful for all of us. As I said at the top of the show, it's one thing to, as Mother said, to mourn and to we all have experienced the loss of loved ones. But it's another thing to how do we honor them that go on to ancestorhood. We got to be committed to continuing this work. We have to be diametrically engaged in teaching our young people the importance of keeping this fight going because many of us are going to pass on. And so what does our life look like when we just fall apart and do nothing? I mean, that's something that's really, really shameful when you think about the legacy of our community with all of the millions of our ancestors that have passed. And then, just contemporary, when you think of Mega Everest and you think of King, you think of Marcus Garvey King, all Harriet Tubman, Sojourner, Henrietta Lacks. When you think of all of our great sisters that have been engaged at the forefront, Shirley Chisholm, come on now, Mary Methune. When you think about all of those sisters combining with our brothers and our information as far as what we're doing here in Flint, although a lot of times it looks like it's a small, but it's a big thing when you think about it in the collectiveness of the pie.
Yes. And what we are challenged to do is to draw on the wisdom and the courage and the vision of all those and our ancestors.
Yes, ma'am.
because we can take it forward. We can pick up the legend of Eric Mays and carry it forward.
Yes.
If we take time to appreciate the knowledge, the guts, and the not back down. Eric operated in the courts. He operated in the legislature
Yes, ma'am.
as a councilman and in the streets.
In the streets, yes, ma'am.
And that's where he operated, and that's where and everybody don't need to do all of that.
Right.
But all of us need to do
Some of that. Thank you.
That's what we need to do.
That's what we got to do.
That's right.
And that's what we are actually challenging our community
That's
to
right.
do.
Ourselves.
I
Yes.
said earlier, take a piece.
Yes.
So if all of us take a piece, and you young people that are in school right now, that you may be dealing with law or whatever area that you're working in, we want you guys to encourage you guys and to excite you guys and motivate you guys to making sure that those dreams and those aspirations, we want to help encourage you to take a piece.
That's right.
And to really believe in that and be committed, because all of us have a commitment to leave a legacy and not a stain.
Yes, absolutely. So now, as we're wrapping up, we're going to show just a few months back in September, the UAW. Many people may remember Eric from a previous time in his life when he was a staunch union activist, and he served many offices in the UAW. And I too am a proud UAW member, and he and myself and Frances Cleve, rest her soul, we used to collaborate and sit down and do what Miss Deloney called kitchen cabinets.
Yeah.
We would strategize.
Strategize, huh?
We would strategize.
Yes, ma'am.
On how we were gonna move the union forward,
right?
And be inclusive.
Yeah.
And everything. And the union was a great vehicle
For training.
For training, and it was a great vehicle for blacks to assume a better economic life. And we have to thank people like Roscoe Van Zant, and we're gonna take time to tell their story.
Yes, ma'am.
He was the only black man in Plant 4 when the sit-down strike happened.
Wow, you kidding?
And he was the oldest worker. He was 40 something. He was next to the other workers. He was like a senior, and they gave him the only bed in the plant. And Roscoe Van Zant, but he wasn't by himself. He had kitchen cabinets with other blacks back then.
Okay.
But when you were talking about forming the union, you had to meet in secret.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to tell some of those stories, because these are the stories that we have to stand on for us to go forward today. And
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. But I want to show Eric, he was beloved in the union movement too. And so I want to show him when they had the strike last year.
Yeah.
And Eric went out there on Davison Road, Center Road.
Yeah.
And most of the people in the plant are, like they're in their 20s and 30s. And
Right.
they just came out and embraced him, and he was
rock star.
He was like a rock star coming to the plant. So let's show that clip.
That's beautiful.
Serious business. They just come out at 12 noon.
Yes, right.
They striking, they negotiating.
That's right.
I'm UAW. They UAW. And we trying to get it right. UAW level 651 in Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
And that's what we done did.
Well, that's right.
1, 2, 3.
Point of order.
What they do? Reduce the volume on that?
I don't know. So anyway, so that was him joining the strike. There wasn't too many social movements that Eric wasn't or a supporter or if not a leader in it. And again, we don't see local elected officials walking picket lines. Now Biden did come down here for a photo op, but and they said that was the first time in history that. But elected officials that had to hire the people, they're gonna join the movement. They're gonna hit the streets with the people.
Oh yes, man.
When the time calls for it.
Hey, listen. I think lines are gonna be drawn.
Yes, they are.
We need to
Either you on one side or the other.
Come on now.
So I think that's all the videos that we have. And so I just wanted us to
His last speech.
Oh, his last speech. We're gonna end this with the last speech at the time that Eric Mays attended Flint City Council. He had been removed from his seat, but he came to the podium, and this was the last words, his last speech publicly at the council meeting. So let's show that. Thank you.
The first Ward City Council person elected here in the city of Flint. For 30 or 40 years, I've not seen nothing like this politically in these council chambers. I've been in these council chambers listening to Chester Simmons, Woody Everly, Melvin McCree, Woodrow Stanley, and the like. I'm gonna be frank with you. I'm appalled at the 3 black council members, Royale Lewis, Quincy Murphy, and Candace Michelle. This city is majority black. I don't have to be ashamed to talk black, white, rich, and poor, Democrat or Republican. I'm not going to bite my tongue. When you can try to shut me down and remove me from exercising my freedom of speech, but we're a smart community, smarter than what you know. When I walked in the Christ Fellowship a week or so ago and seeing the community leaders, many of them, Rita Stanley, a dog, the NAACP, Black Lives Matter, CBAC, the Democracy Defense League. I've seen us, and we are the ones who speak in this city. When the vote was taken, even though the issue of this wrongful removal was a center of attraction, I agree with the masses and the majority that 40 million need to be talked about. $40 million to the general fund allocated. And how am I going to watch it and make sure that every dime is spent before 2026? I don't even see the logistics of it. But regardless of that, why put it in a category of money when people have told you for over a year, give us 5 million, 10 million, 15 million, fix our roofs, our houses, generational wealth, and they're the ones who vote for you and you turn your back. Michelle, you were there, Royale Lewis was there, Quincy was there, he said, y'all gonna be in a surprise. The Lord is good. Because guess what? One of them is gone. Worthy. If we write 600 signatures on you, Liddell, y'all have messed with some of the wrong folks. I ain't no way it's time. God bless the residents of the city of Flint, and we need to fix this council.
So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, that was the irreplaceable Eric Mays and his last words. God bless the residents of the city of Flint, something he used to say all the time when he would close in some remarks. So we wanted to share with you some of his more thought-provoking and his presence in the heat of the water crisis, the underwhelming court, $600 million. He was on the front line of that. He testified in court against the settlement, along with others, and so he gave us a challenge in that last speech about fix the council.
Yes, ma'am.
And I do want to say that if the council really want to honor his legacy, there's a couple of things they need to do. Number one, they need to investigate the sale of the 190 homes to the investment firm. We are of the understanding that Deb Cherry did not send a notice to the city that they were even going to put those up for auction. We need to investigate that because this county, you all may be liable for that sale. And we need, and Eric Mays, we're not talking about what we think he would do. He said it before he was put off of council. He spoke on that sale. He mentioned the fact that even the city could have used opera funds and bought those homes. So that was one issue. The other issue, and we all know the opera money and how it's used. We want to get the tops off the homes. We want home repair and rehabilitation. We have been asking for months and months. And Eric introduced in December a resolution. He put a motion on the floor to add $15 million. He said put $20 million in the home and rehabilitation. They already got 5. He wanted 15 million more. Yeah. It got voted down. It needs to be taken back up. And we need to take it up before the opera fund, which was put into the general fund, but it's still our money. It's still there. You know, people say, well, that money's gone. No, it's not. Right. It's still there. They tried to give some people some money last night. Yes, ma'am. Of opera fund. So please don't say it's gone. And we ain't gone. Yes, ma'am. We're gonna continue to fight because that's our money. Yes, and the idea that they giving money to these people, many of them who got big bucks off the water crises. Yes, ma'am. A lot of federal funds were sent here. That opera money belonged to the people. Yes, ma'am. And some people don't have the political will, in my Eric Mays voice, to fight and stand up for what belongs to us. So I'm going to end this right there. I want to thank my co-host, yes, fill in the blanks, yes, and you all, please pay attention. We're going to be coming on here in the next weeks leading up to the 10-year commemoration of the Flint water disaster. Every week we're going to be presenting a demand that we have had and that we're going to push forward. And I have this beautiful bracelet here that was made by one of our Democracy Defense League members, Jelena Freeman. And it says, point of order, rest in heaven, Eric Mays. And it's a beautiful bracelet. And if you want to find out how to get one, you're going to have to come back when we come back with Democracy Defense League podcast. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, we just thank our audience because we continue to work to make sure we are doing the work in the manner that Mr. Mays would truly appreciate. And like I said earlier, all of us have a commitment to take a piece of him, like I mentioned about in Reconstruction with Mr. Pembroke, Congressman Pembroke. When you think about 1877 and the commitment is, and it's continuing about fighting for justice, fighting for human rights. And again, all of us collectively have to get on board and be a part of the solution and stop complaining. We all have to each take up the mantle and do the work. We want to thank our community, and as we continue to engage, we're going to stay on the forefront to get this work done. As always, Wakanda out.
Ashe.
Ashe. Thank you, my mother. Thank you, mother. Thank you so much.